Hi, the Mystic Diamond here, and welcome to the very last class for 2018. What a year it has been, honestly, but, now is not the time to be focusing on what this year has been. Now is the time to focus on this particular class. So, take a seat, anywhere will do, and take out your Path of Transcendence journal and some pens, and let's get ready to discuss today's class, which is on humility. Now, before I get into humility, what it's about, and all the things that come along with it, at least from a general point of view, one thing that's good to know is that humility and our last class, surrendering, they do kind of go hand in hand. So if you have not seen surrendering, I would recommend you watch that one first, and then watch this one. Alright, so let's get right into it by starting off by defining what humility is. Humility is accepting what is despite the limitations. Whatever comes your way, you humbly accept it with humility. Okay? Now, it's important to know that humility is one of the things that God actually requested to be put into your soul's contract. Remember how we were saying back in class 1, soul contracts, your soul made an agreement with God. I feel like taking out the whiteboard again. Your soul made an agreement with God. And then there were things that God requested to be put into everyone's soul contract. Humility was one of them. Yeah. Now, this is because you need to be okay when things go wrong. You need to be self-reliant and to trust that everything will be okay. Alright? It's part of being on the path of ascension, going through your process of transcendence, angelic or not. Humility is incredibly important to have. And we'll get into why in just a moment, but it's incredibly important to know that this is not something that your soul put into the soul contract, although your soul might have wanted to, God actually specifically requested that humility be put into your soul's contract. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that things are constantly being removed from your human, and you need to be okay with that and show humility. Yeah, so when things are removed from you, family members, friends, when we think about from a human perspective when someone passes away, let's go with that one. So, your great-great-great cousin, which I don't know, because I really, so my human's a bit uncomfortable using an example of any family member, just in case they have recently passed on, but great-great-great cousin passed away. And it had a really big impact on you, of course, but it would, any sort of death has a big impact on humanity. For me, personally, of course, I look at death differently because of the high-dimensional task of soul removal that I have, so that's just for me. But for humans, it's a very big deal. With humility comes that test of, as I said, being okay when things don't turn out the way that you think they will, so someone passing away being that example, being self-reliant and trusting that everything will be okay. Okay? So, rather than just rah-ing over everything, realizing that, no, you know what, everything's going to be okay, I know it will. Okay, as tough as the situation is, I know that it will be okay. I trust that everything will be okay. I trust that this has happened for a reason. Okay? One of the toughest questions that I'm asked when it comes to death, from people in the physical reality, because, of course, on high-dimensional levels, the soul doesn't ask this question. The soul sort of goes, yeah, well, I knew it was time, so, let's go wherever we need to go. But in the physical reality, especially with humans, one of the biggest questions I'm asked is, if God was real, why did so-and-so have to die? And there are many reasons for it. I know someone very close to home, won't say names, but I know someone very close to home, who was pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl. The girl survived, the boy did not. He was a stillborn, basically. And the mother of these two asked me, if God is real, why did he have to die? And there's always a reason behind it, always. A reason for those that are impacted, that are left here in the physical reality, and a reason for those who have moved on to whatever it is that they need to move on to. For that particular individual, there were very special reasons for him as to why he needed to move on, which was really beautiful for me to come into, and then quite another thing to tell this person, but we'll just move on from that. So yeah, being okay with it, and showing that humility from for when things are removed. Okay? Or another part of humility is that you'll be blocked from doing certain things. So I use the example of going to a party. I've used this many times because it is so very fitting. So you've, excuse me, you've wrapped up the gift to give the recipient. You've even made a birthday cake because you were asked to make that cake. You've had a shower, you've gotten dressed, put your makeup on, put the cake and the gift in the car, buckled up your seatbelt, put the key in the ignition, and for whatever reason the car won't start. As we know, Essential 101, this is because you're being blocked from it. Now, how does that relate to humility? It relates in the way that you react. Can you be okay with this situation? So my first wave friend is a great example of it. She does drive, and she drives her kids to school. Both of her kids are in primary, or if you prefer, elementary school at the moment. And so she will drive them to school. Now, school is probably, I would say, roughly about a 25-minute walk from her home. Just makes things easier to be able to drive. There have been times when her car wouldn't start. So, for where she's at, she's gotten to that stage of humility, of naturally showing humility. Okay, yep, the car's not starting. Alright guys, we're going to have to walk today. You know, humbly accepting that she was being blocked for a reason. And there have been many reasons as to why she's been blocked whenever the car doesn't work, some of which I've been privy to, but anyway, that gives you that example. Again, you need to be okay with this and show that humility. Okay, yep, it's part of my process, it's fine, you know, it is what it is. Let's do what we need to do here, whatever that is. So in that case of my first wave of friend, alright guys, we're going to need to walk. No, from my first wave of friend, no whining, no complaining, no getting angry, because that's not going to help anything for her children. Alright guys, we're going to have to walk, let's go. Yep, let's go. Yeah. And bless her children, I mean children are children. 9 times out of 10 they don't really want to walk to school, which I can understand that. But, yeah, it's about showing that humility. So the question becomes, how strong can you be within yourself to deal with what is happening around you? Now, we've spoken earlier on in another class about the difference between reacting and responding angelically, or reacting angelically or unangelically. Okay? Again, humility is a very big part of reacting angelically. Okay? It is becoming, thank you, becoming of being an angelic to react with humility to a situation. So how strong can you be within yourself to deal with what is happening around you, rather than flying off the handle in that particular scenario? Let's go back to the birthday scenario. So the birthday scenario, okay, yep, I guess my car's not going to start. I'm being blocked from this for whatever reason. What's the next thing that we do? Okay? Being cool, calm, collected, and showing humility through each situation, because, after all, these are all tests. Every single one of them. And bless them. You know, when I have my incredibly human moments because of how far I've come with this journey, rather than going, oh, this is ridiculous, I actually, when I have a rah-rah, and I do, absolutely I have rah-rahs. I'm not going to say that I don't. No one's perfect. I have my rah-rahs. My rah-rah is more along the lines of, now I get that this is a test, but I don't get what this test is. So, because everything that blocks you or sits with you a little bit funny, so that may require humility or surrendering to your process, is a test. So you will get to that point yourself, if you haven't already, of going, okay, I know this is a test, and if you're going to rah-rah, it'll be less, I don't like this, it will become, okay, I know this is a test, but what is this test? Or, why am I having this test now? Rather than, I don't like this, babe. Oh, bless my higher self, just showing me a few different things there. Alright, now, so how strong can you be within you to deal with what is happening around you? Okay, and it can be to all different varying degrees. From, we run out of milk when you desperately want, or your human desperately wants a coffee or a cup of tea, maybe want some cereal or something, or you live with others and you've been craving something all day, you know you've put it in the fridge, let's just say the refrigerator, you come home, you go to the refrigerator, you open it up and it's not there because someone's eaten it. How are you going to react to that? Are you going to rah-rah and fly off the handle, or are you going to say, with all humility, yeah, okay, it's a test, I understand that, okay, let's move on to the next thing. I'm sure there's something that can be a compromise, or there's a way around it, I guess I'll go back out to the shops and get another one, or I can make myself something else, that's okay, I can deal with this, that's okay. Now, the good news is that you will get stronger and stronger and stronger with each fall that you have as you pick yourself up humbly and move forward through humility. So each time that you are tested, it's like the first time is the hardest because it's like, okay, so you might have your rah-rah and then get halfway through your rah-rah going, oh, this is actually a test of humility. I'm so sorry. I've had those moments when I first started off. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to shush now. Yes, it's for my highest good. To eventually getting to the stage where you're picking up on it right away. Yep, this is a test of humility. Okay, I understand. Thank you. I know it's serving my highest good. It is what it is. Always will work. It is what it is. Yep. Moving on to the next thing. Okay. Humility tests your resourcefulness, self-reliance, faith and trust in God, your team, guides, higher self, etc., trusting that everything will be okay despite how bad it all looks. Okay? So it absolutely is about trust. It's one of the key elements to humility as well as surrendering. As I say, they both go hand in hand, very much so. Surrendering, letting it happen. Humility, how you're responding to letting it happen. Okay, they both very much work hand in hand. And trust is key to it. Naturally, if this is happening to me, it's happening to me for a reason. Something that's serving my highest good, something I need to go through for my process, as opposed to me, and all of the above. So, some examples include homelessness, which, yes, is definitely something that I can talk to you guys about, because I have actually experienced it myself. And what's really interesting about that point, and I make this point a little further on in my notes, but it's a good point to bring it up now, is that when I experienced homelessness, and I literally mean homelessness, I had nowhere to go. And not I'll go and sleep with my friends. I had nowhere to go. And so I would have slept out on the street if I had trusted sleeping on the street. I didn't, I just kept walking around everywhere. But suddenly I went from all of the downtrodden, dark thoughts of, I have nowhere to go, no one loves me, all the natural things you would expect to go through when you're homeless, and suddenly there was a switch that kind of flicked. And my very next thought was, you know what, this is the lowest that I have ever sunk. But that's actually a good thing, because things can only get better from here. And I started laughing. Like, things can actually only get better from here. No matter what happens, things can only get better from here. It can't get worse than this. Yes, I'm going to contradict myself in a moment. But it makes the point, this happened way before I was activated, it makes the point that trusting in your process helps you to realize that despite as bad as it may be, it's happening for a good reason, and things will only get better. Yeah, they're playing it now. Things can only get better. Alright, now then. Losing a job. Yeah, so losing a job is tough for your human because that's the way that you make your income. You lose that job, are you going to have a rah-rah? Or at this stage, now that you've been activated and going through your whole process, are you going to be able to calmly surrender to your process and go through this humility? Obviously, this has happened for a reason. Okay, I humbly accept that this is what has happened, and I'll now move on to the next thing. 70% of the time, roughly, when an angelic loses their human job, it's because this is not the right direction for them, so that's why they're losing it. Now, of course, I didn't know this when I was losing my jobs, because I wasn't activated at that time, but it does make a lot of sense when I look back at it, and if you look back on it yourself, you'll realise it makes sense. This was not what you were meant to do, and so something had to happen. There had to be some divine intervention there to stop that from happening. Yes, it was a test in humility, whether you passed or failed, whether you were activated or not, but it wasn't serving your highest good, it wasn't what you were meant to be doing. And how are you going to cope with that? Now, I certainly was anything but humble with one of my jobs. I actually called a meeting with the head of the business, sort of debating them over the contract that I'd signed. But eventually I stepped down. There was something within me eventually that sort of said, nah, look, this is not worth it. We need to just let this go. And I'm glad that I did, in the end. Alright, losing friends, losing loved ones. Whether losing them through the process of letting go of people, places and things, losing them because you've been blocked from them, losing them because they've passed away. Always tough. How do you deal with that? How strong can you be within yourself to just trust that everything will be okay? Alright, now there's a good phrase when it comes to humility that I've recently relearned, because I'd forgotten about it, I've got to be honest, but that I've recently relearned and it makes a lot of sense. And the phrase is, this too shall pass. And I think it's a great phrase to consider. Going through, yeah, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. When you're going through the worst of times, yeah, this too shall pass. It shall. Everything has to have an end point at some point. This too shall pass. Really helps with humility. Now, excuse that noise. When you trust, you know that you will be okay and that you will get through it. Alright, just a moment, guys. So we surrender to our process and show humility, and that is how we will get through. But we need to be okay with it all first. That is how all the other doors will open. Okay? So let's break that down a bit, shall we? You surrender to your process and show humility, what we've been discussing so far, and that is how you will get through whatever it is that you're going through, but you need to be okay with it first. This is how the other doors open to send you on to whatever the next thing is. And I can definitely verify that, even with things that have happened with me recently. It is not until I surrendered, showed that humility, and knew that, you know, everything was going to be okay, that things actually did change. Once I surrendered, trusted, showed that humility, that's when those things changed. Now, when you hit the point of humility and you eat your humble pie, say, that's cool, let it be, and surrender to it, and know that whatever is meant for me will come. That's when you will truly surrender and show humility with that trust. It's a great quote. Whatever is meant for me will come. Whatever it is. And that again is a very neutral quote also. Not necessarily bad things, good things, positive, negative, blessing, challenge, test. Whatever is meant for me will come. Now, with humility, you also need to have gratitude because the situation could always be worse. And now I know that humanity have their own way of talking about how things could always be worse, but the truth of the matter is, the situation could always be worse. Whatever it is you are going through could always be worse. Let's take a look, for example, because this is what I always defer back to. So let's quickly refresh on the ripple effect of the current waves of ascension. Remember how I was saying a little bit earlier on that the first wavers feel things as fiercely and harshly as they do, go through whatever it is, so that the second wavers don't need to feel it as fiercely and harshly. The second wavers feel what they feel to that degree so that the third wavers don't have to feel things as fiercely and harshly as with the fourth wavers because of the third wavers, fifth wavers because of the fourth wavers, and as of next year, the sixth wavers because of the fifth wavers. So regardless of whether you are like me, a second waver, or if you're a sixth waver, or anything in between, things could always be worse simply on that alone. So for me, I always look back at that and say, you know what, things could always be worse. I could be a first waver right now, dealing with this much more fiercely than I am at the moment. And you can do the same. You know, even if, say, you're a fifth waver, you could say, you know, if I was a fourth waver, it'd be much more fiercely. Or you could say, you know what, if I was a first waver, it'd be much, much, much more fierce than what I'm dealing with right now. And that's just how it is. The reason this works very well for second wavers is because the first wavers were the experimental wave. They are the ones that started coming into things when they didn't necessarily know what was going on. They had to come into that information, all that. From second wavers onwards, we've started coming into this stuff and starting to know what it is, and hence why I'm able to do these classes for you guys. So, for me, I'm very grateful for the first wavers, and always will be, because of that, and how fiercely they feel things, and other things as well. But things could always be worse, no matter what they are. Okay? No matter what they are. It's very relevant for me, considering the last couple of weeks that I've had, that's for sure. Alright, where are we? Yeah. Having that trust, regardless of what has been thrown your way, that is humanity. Okay? Having that trust regardless. So if you are suddenly homeless, which is probably the worst thing for some of you, you know, having that trust. Okay, I am. Alright? Team, higher self, where do we go from here? You know? Having that trust will make all the difference. Enduring bubble bursting moments. Yep. Higher dimensional tasks. Yep. Energetic attacks. And being okay with that. That is humility. Eventually you'll get to ground zero where there's nothing left and the only way from this is up. Now, I can give you an example of my own ground zero. I was living somewhere else with a friend, a housemate, and we decided that we were going to do a sea change, so to say sea change, and we were going to travel interstate. We were going to buy a one-way ticket, travel interstate, and see how things went over there. Because we didn't have the finances behind us, we weren't renting a place, we were sort of going from hotel to hotel once we got there, and because of that we had to let go of pretty much everything that we owned. I think the only things that really survived for me, I'm just trying to think about what did survive, were some photo albums, some clothes, yeah, obviously the essentials like toiletries and whatever else, a book or two books maybe, because I love reading, and a notepad and a pen. That's all I had. Everything else was gone. And for me, this is just my own specific example. Up to that point, I had a vast range of DVDs, because I used to love my DVDs, and I was collecting them. I had all these, not necessarily a box set, but I collected all these seasons of particular shows that I absolutely loved. Just to give you guys a bit of an example, so I loved the show Charmed. Charmed had 8 seasons. I had all 8 seasons of Charmed. I had all, I think, is it 5 seasons of Sex and the City? I had all 7 seasons of Will and Grace, just all these different shows. I had all 3 seasons that were available in Australia of The Nanny, because we didn't have more than 3 seasons available. So you're starting to get my gist. I was collecting all of these DVDs. I think I had about 500 by the time I left them, probably more, probably just a bit less, who knows. I had to let all of them go. I probably owned about 250 to 300 books. I had to let go of them, and that meant a lot to me because I love my reading. And yeah, a lot of other things that were very sentimental to me that I had to let go of at that point, because at that point I was going into this sea change. Here's where things get really interesting. The sea change didn't work out. And so, what happens there is that I had lost everything, and it didn't work out. And so I came back with pretty much nothing, and had to build my way up again. Coming from that scenario, the only way to move forward is with humility. Okay? To know that everything will be okay. That was, despite it being pre-activation, that was my ground zero. And working my way up from there. Okay? So yeah, you work your way up from there, and once you hit ground zero, the good news is, just like with homelessness, the only way is up from there. Absolutely. Faith and trust with that one. My first wave friend has a great quote from her counterpart, actually. I'm sure she won't mind me saying it. His quote for her is, faith, trust, and pixie dust. And it's a great point. Faith and trust will definitely get you through. Okay. Now, next thing. It is one thing to show humility, it's another thing to master humility, because people will test you. Absolutely, 100%, human densities and such alike, people will test you, you will be tempted, you'll be challenged, absolutely, with humility. Okay? Not only about surrendering, trusting, showing that humility, but also accepting what's happened. So let's take a look at letting go of people, places, and things. So let's say you've let go of someone, they're out of your life, and your life is doing better for it because, you know, they weren't serving your highest good, so things are going well there. And then somehow this person weasels their way back in. Who knows? Text, email, random phone call, whatever it is. What do you do with that? What do you do? Are you strong enough to keep going with what serves your highest good, or will you go backwards? People will test your faith. Do you have the strength to stand in your truth? Can you surrender? Can you have the patience when there is nothing left? All of this is humility. But the biggest lesson to learn is that when you are stripped of everything, the only thing you have is you. And the lesson to learn from that is that you are enough. Guys, repeat this with me. I am enough. Okay? I'm not going to get emotional over that. I am enough. If you have nothing at all, you are enough. You will always have yourself, and you are certainly enough. Please remember that. I am enough. Alright. One of the best things about this process is that we have each other, okay? Your fellow angelics, your fellow wavers, your fellow divines, etc., they get it. Okay? They know what you're going through because in their own way they are going through it too, to their own varying degree. Okay? So, you know, as tough as it is to feel like you're separated from humanity, and we're not. We're all together, unity consciousness, we'll discuss this in the new year. But there's a little bit of that idea of separation because they don't quite understand what it is you're going through, because what you're going through is an ascension process that they haven't been activated for yet. One of the great things we have is that we can talk to our fellow angelics, our fellow wavers. Say you're a fourth waver, your fellow fourth wavers. Say you're a divine masculine, your fellow divine masculines, your fellow angelics, your fellow beings on the path of ascension. You have them. You have access to them. So definitely talk to these people, communicate with these people. If you know of anyone that can guide you, go to them, ask them for help. Absolutely, they will assist you, and same with the other way around. If they're asking you for help, assist them with what you can. We're all in this together. It's something I've said for a very long time. Yes, they're going to play the song right now, but we're all in this together, guys. Okay? We're all going to be here for each other. Now then, trust in your higher self, team, guide, God. Let everything go and surrender through humility. Be okay with what's unfolded. Hold that strength within you and know that whatever is meant for you will come. Okay? And that takes us to the end of today's class. So that's all about having that humility despite whatever is coming your way. It's been a tough year. I mean, if ever there was a year to learn humility, this would be the one for it. One can only hope that 2019 is going to be a better year, but even if it's not, surrendering and humility will get you very, very far. Trust in your process, trust in your path, trust in your guides, team, higher self, okay? And you will get to where you need to be. And trust in those sayings that I was talking about earlier. Where is it? This too shall pass. Things could always be worse. Okay? Combine them together. I mean, this too shall pass. It's got to pass. It's got to end at some point. It's just the way it is. It can't go on forever. It's got to end at some point. And things could always, no matter what, be worse. Sorry. And trust that it is something that is serving your highest self. We were talking during the surrendering class about how unlearning human conditioning is the best thing you can do in order to surrender, because, you know, Ascension 102, things that appear uncomfortable thanks to human conditioning are actually good things, okay? Trust. Once you've mastered that, you then automatically come to trust that regardless of what it is that you're coming into it because it's there to serve your highest good. Now, there is something I do want to end this on, and that is, yes, absolutely, surrendering and humility is a quintessential part of your process. Please make sure you take notes on both of them, okay, and you know, be mindful of them as you do continue along. In saying that, I need to let you guys know, particularly if you're in the monad, but also to a certain degree if you're in the soul matrix, do not forget to learn to discern, okay? Because it's one thing to surrender to your guides, team, higher self, God, whatever it is, your soul self. It's another thing to surrender to demonics, AI, dark workers, okay, our negative Nancy friends, okay? So yes, learn to discern what you are surrendering to, okay? Now, if you are, for example, I'm just going to pull a thin example out, confronted by a dark worker in the physical reality, okay? Yes, absolutely. You do what you're being guided to do in that situation. But once that situation has come to its end, whatever that end is, and you are leaving that scene and going to wherever it is you're going to, that's when you go back to the surrendering and humility, okay? I realize that despite how tough this was to deal with, that this is happening for a reason. It's happening because it is serving my highest good, and I'm okay with that. Okay? And trust me, I'm more than well aware that the first couple of times these sorts of things will happen, that it will come across more in the way of, this is happening for my highest good, and I'm okay with that, let's keep moving. I'm more than aware of that, because I was saying it with a clenched jaw the first couple of times myself. But once you get to this point where I'm at, trust me guys, it will just become second nature. Yep, my human doesn't like that, and I completely understand that my human doesn't like that, but I know that it's happening for a reason. It's serving my highest good, and I'm okay with that. Alright, guys. Alright, so I'm going to let all of you go with peace, blessings, and so much love. If you are watching this the day it's released or whatever, or maybe even the day after, then this is the last class we are doing for 2018. The next class will be in 2019. Okay, there were 4 classes that came out this week, and you may have watched them on different days, but there are 4 classes that came out this week alone, because they needed to be done. I needed to complete the process of the levels of transcendence, and I also need to do surrendering and humility to end the year. But when we come back next year, we're coming back with quite a few things. I'll just name a few of them for you. Illusions, yeah, we'll be going into that. Where else do we have? Just a moment. Let's see what else we need to be going into. Perception and projection. Mental aspects and awareness. Unity consciousness, like I mentioned. Polarity integration, and much, much, much more. There is so much still to come in 2019. So, I'm going to let you guys go with peace, love, and blessings. For homework tonight, I want you to write down, take as many notes as you can about with humility, and write down examples of times where you have shown humility, or times that you may have failed to show humility. And also, if you've got some time, also write down, give yourself an example, and theoretically write down how you think the best way would be to respond to it. Actually, you know what? One better, because higher self is saying, you give the example. So, I'll give you an example. Okay, let's see. You've just found out, big for humans, not big for Ascension, but big for humans. You've just found out you're going to be bedridden for a week. How are you going to respond to that? You answer that question. I'll let you answer that one. Just found out you're going to be bedridden for a week. How are you going to respond to it? How are you going to surrender to it? How are you going to show humility to it? How are you going to respond angelically to it? Alright guys, I'll see you again in the new year. Until then, peace, love and blessings to you all. Make love and not war. Give someone you love a hug today. There's the bell. Bye guys. Mwah. Bye.